Hey, who'd you talk to? What's going on? It is me, Mike Leopard, King Mike L. This is Legit Paranormal, brought to you by LegitPodcast.com. It is Sunday night, 7:07. Not a bad start. It is February 19th, 2023. It's 219-2023. 9 minus 1 is 8. I got nothing. Well, no, I got nothing. I got nothing for the math geeks. Now, before I have joining me as always, I had to read a poem that I wrote. It's from the heart, so bear with me as I struggle through this. It was about my supposed honeymoon that I was supposed to be taken on this weekend to Block Island, and the results thereof. Sorry if I break up. My heart was a flutter with love in my head. I even took the couch so Buddy could have the king-size bed. I thought the night was great. There were friends. There was booze. Perfect, legit night. Nothing to lose. But when I woke in the morning, Buddy was missing. He left to have breakfast. Some other king he was kissing. Then he came back. Wouldn't you know? He said he was leaving. Meet me on the boat. Off I go. My stomach was sunken. My heart in my throat. For nearly 20, 30, 50 miles I walked to get to the boat. I jumped on the ferry. We hardly talked. That's when I knew that I had to cut ties. Some gingers are great, but they're filled with lies. So my heart was broken by Buddy money there. I woke in the morning, Buddy wasn't there. Joining me as always, Buddy Money, break your heart there.
What an asshole! I love it. It's a nice poem, Mike. It was well thought out. It rhymed really nicely. It goes really nicely with my sweet, dark, dirty ginger. I'm running low on my Irish reds. I had a good lead in, Mike, and you kind of screwed it all.
You should call the beard now. Leave you hanging.
I want to give a big shout out to Rick Lysick and the people at Block Island Ghost Tours. An amazing weekend. We had a really good investigation yesterday. That place, I can't wait to dive into the audio evidence of that first chance I get. And of course,
How was the breakfast and the lunch?
I didn't have breakfast. I just had I just had a coffee and
breakfast. All right, it's breakfast and lunch. You skipped out on me. Joining us, he's actually joining us, Joey.
He's
Paranormal. What's up, Joe?
Hey, have you guys ever seen Mr. Deeds?
Yeah, dude.
So should we start calling King Mike L Mr. Deeds? Because that 100% came off as Mr. Deeds standing up in the bar reading some of his Hallmark cards.
Kind of, right? Kind of.
One of them might get bought, man.
You know what? I never seen it. But I know of the movie because
the delivery was almost spot on. I have a hard time believing you haven't seen it.
No, that was more of a Dr. Seuss delivery. That's
exactly.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to copy Adam Sandler copying Dr. Seuss. I'll go right to the source. Buddy, would you like to do the introductions?
Mike, I would love to do the introductions. Tonight, joining us live from the great state of Florida. He's an author. I believe he has 3 books. He's a paranormal investigator. He's a psychic medium. Please welcome to the show, John Russell.
Welcome. Hi, guys. Nice to be here. I appreciate you having me. I got my glass of bourbon to toast you with, buddy.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. Cheers.
Give me 1 sec. Am I going to miss this?
I got an odd concoction going myself.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm drinking honey whiskey with a strawberries and cream Dr. Pepper.
Oh my God.
It's interesting. It's zero sugar, so it's not super sweet. It's interesting.
Hey, listen, talk about interesting. You want to hear a weird combination? My ex-brother-in-law served in Vietnam, and over there, one of their popular drinks was half beer and half Coca-Cola.
Huh.
Yeah. Weird. He never could get me to try it.
There's actually a big craze right now going around of people mixing things with Diet Coke. One of them being champagne. They call it cocaine.
Yeah. I just do my bourbon straight.
Yeah, like I was going to say that I was about to do a shot of a vodka that I don't know the name of, and it makes me wince. So it's not like a good one. But that's just how I roll. It is what it is. But it is Chindan.
Cheers to everybody. Slancha.
Yeah.
So John, the medium part is here, and then everything else is over here. My question always is for mediums, how does this start, and then how do you identify that, hey, wait a minute, I can see, or whatever it is that you do?
That's a good question, and I'll tell you exactly how it started. It was kind of a two-part thing, and it started when I was about 5 years old.
Oh.
And I was sound asleep in bed and woke up in the middle of the night, just totally, completely, suddenly wide awake, no drowsiness, no grogginess, couldn't figure that out. And I thought, well, maybe something happened outside, a noise or something that woke me up, and I laid there real still and I listened. There was nothing. And my parents had left a nightlight on down the hallway, so if I had to get up at night, go to the bathroom, whatever, I could see. And I raised up on my elbows, and I'm looking around my bedroom. My bedroom door was open. And I looked down the hallway, and in the nightlight's glow around one of the door frames in the hallway that went off into our dining room, this elderly black gentleman was staring around the door frame, looking at me in my bedroom. And I screamed bloody murder because my family was white. We didn't have anyone black living with us. As a 5-year-old child, my presumption was somebody's broken into the house. Now, I knew he was elderly because he had close-cropped white hair. He had a white mustache. And he walked around the door frame into the hallway, started walking toward my bedroom. And he was totally, completely solid. He was as solid as you or I. He wasn't wispy, wasn't translucent, wasn't transparent, was totally solid. He had on a long sleeve red flannel shirt, khaki pants, black belt, black shoes. I remember to this day. And as he got closer, I screamed bloody murder again. And my parents began to come running. And then he began to vanish. And he became translucent. Then he became transparent. And then he vanished. My parents got in there. My mother's hugging me. My dad's trying to comfort me. And they're telling me, you just saw something on TV. You had a bad nightmare, blah, blah, blah. I was like, no, there's somebody in this house. And my fright was so real and I was so convincing that my father actually went through the entire house, checked all the doors and windows, opened all the closets, looked under all the beds. And of course, nobody was there in the flesh. And so they were, you're going to be all right. You can go back to sleep. And I was like, how do I go back to sleep after this? And it dawned on me, I've just seen my first ghost. What does this guy want? Why did he come? Is he going to come back? Is he going to want to talk to me? Is he going to want me to do something weird? What's going on here? So for weeks after that, I spent my life looking over my shoulder and wondering if this guy was going to come back. And physical paranormal manifestations began to occur in my life. My parents saw them. Other people would see them. And I couldn't articulate it, being a little over 5 years old, but I began to understand on a spiritual level that this guy, the old black guy, had come to open up the portal to these paranormal experiences, and that these experiences were going to be tremendously important to me and to others down the road. And so I began to understand that, and I began to be at peace with that, and I was no longer afraid of anything. And then as far as the psychic component, the mediumistic component kicking in, that happened when I was a few months more down the road, and I was out in the backyard playing with a toy. And this car pulled into the driveway, and I didn't recognize the people in it. So I ran inside and I said, hey, Mom, Dad, some car just pulled in the driveway. I don't know who these people are. And they said, okay, we'll come check it out. So they walked outside, and I walked out with them, and they said, oh, these are friends of ours. I'd never met them. I didn't know who they were. So I was like, oh, okay. So I'm kind of goofing around with my toy and just kind of hanging around on the periphery. And the people got out of their car, walked up the sidewalk, and we're standing there talking with my mom and dad outside. And I walked over to them and I looked up at them, and they were having a conversation. And I just interrupted the conversation. And I said, you folks just went on vacation. And I said, you drove that car that's in the driveway. And you have 2 kids. They're not with you today, but you have 2 kids. And you took them with you in that car on vacation. And you went to this hotel, and it was painted this color, and it had this many floors, and it looked like this. And there were these trees out front that were planted in regular intervals that looked like this. And around back, the pool area was painted this color, and so on and so forth. And the lady's husband was kind of like back and forth at her, and my parents like, what in God's name is going on? And I'll never forget to this day, and I find it funny. The woman literally was bug-eyed, and her jaw was agape. I mean, like hanging open. And she was looking at me literally like I had cobras growing out my ears.
You were 5?
And, yeah.
All right. Here's what I would have done.
My parents, and she said, how the hell could he possibly know this? And my mother was taken all aback, and she was all shook up, and she was like, well, you know, kids and their imaginations. And she goes, no. Kids and their imaginations does not explain this. How the hell could he possibly know this? And my parents were kind of like, well, what do you mean? And she goes, that's what we came to tell you today was about the vacation we just took. We drove that car. We took our 2 kids. The hotel we stayed at was exactly like John described. How the hell could he possibly know this? So that was when I discovered that I had this gift that I could see into people's lives. I could tell where they had been, what they had done, what their feelings were, their emotions were. And then I began to discover that with that gift, I could predict the future accurately, and that I could also contact people on the other side. And that's when it all began, when I was about 6. And then from there to age 11,
Hey,
John, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
For the record, that's so much for age 5.
Yeah.
Like you just gave off a resume that's bigger than ours, and you're like, and then I turned 6.
Yeah.
Let me stop at age 5. Couple of things. It took 2 bloody murders for your parents to come running.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's bad. That's not Joey. How does that rank on the bloody murders count? Can it be?
I mean, it should probably only take 1 murder, not let alone like 2 bloody murders.
In their defense, I have to say the screams were fairly close together.
Okay. The gentleman's face. Any expressions?
Yeah, he was very. He wasn't malevolent at all. It was a very benign expression, and kind of like, kid, I'm sorry I have to scare you to death, but it's going to be very important. We have to open this portal. I have to get this gift activated in you. I have to impart this knowledge and these experiences to you. And that was basically all it was.
And then, secondly, do you think that you heard them discussing this? Like, in other words, I always ask this. When a medium says that, like, they walk up to somebody and they tell them everything, I always sometimes wonder, are you actually predicting the future, or did you kind of almost, I know this sounds dumb, hear what they were coming to say, and you already had it first? You know what I'm trying to say?
I didn't know what you're trying to say. Yeah, and it's that's a point of debate among people, but I think that obviously you have to have some gift that's inherent in you.
Either way.
And then that gift is awakened. And then between the gift that's in you and the people on the other side, the guardian angels, the spirit guides, so on and so forth, that come to give you knowledge and help you and reveal things to you, it's a combination of things. You work together, and those energies, those influences all come together and work together. So I don't think it's just me, and I don't think it's just them. I think it's a partnership, but that gift has to be within me and has to be activated. And then that has to be honed. Yeah. And then that's what I did going up until about the age of 11 or 12. I became interested. I was always a good reader and a voracious reader. And I began to study everything that I could find on religion, psychology, parapsychology, paranormal, the psychic realm, so on and so forth. And I also began to study human behavior, because I observed, we grew up in the church. And I observed that there were people in the church that preached one thing and did another. And I saw that there were people in the paranormal community, the spiritual community, psychic community, that claimed to have gifts and manipulated people for money, or claimed to do this and they didn't, or they claimed knowledge that was simply things that they had read that somebody had written a long time ago, or maybe somebody had written a book about a book that somebody else had written. And so that disturbed me. That bothered me. And so around the age of 12, I was like, okay, damn it. What works? What doesn't? What's real? What isn't? What's a lie? What's the truth? And that set me on my course of study for that particular, outlook, focus. And then by the age of 15, I was reading, giving readings for friends and family. And then at the age of 18, I began to read professionally. And now I've done that for over 50 years. And I have a worldwide clientele. I've read for clients in over 40 countries, which just blows my mind. And
let me ask you something, John. You were gifted at a very early age. Anybody else in your family, mother, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, grandparent, have this any ability?
They had
the mom.
They had a little bit of paranormal experience and a little bit of paranormal gift, but nothing as strong as mine, nothing that went in depth as mine. Like right now, I've had way over 1,000 physical paranormal experiences. And a lot of times we've caught these on film, we've videoed them, we've audio, there's been witnesses to them. So I've had the bulk of the experiences in my family, the most accurate and the most powerful gift of anybody in my family.
Nice.
So, Joe, this is kind of comparable to like Jeter when he came into the league. He just all of a sudden he could just play. There he was. He was shortstop. Like, you know what I mean? Because think about it. By 15, I was trying to get my permit, and I was just trying to figure out how to take out girls, which I didn't figure out until my 20s, and then uneven. But then, like by 18, Joe, he's going pro. He went pro. You heard that, right? Like he went pro at 18. Mike Tyson went pro at 18. I mean, like
I think a better comp is LeBron, right out of high school.
Yeah.
Or Kobe.
LeBron.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm a Kobe guy. But anyways, so that's you must have caught heat for being an 18-year-old. You had to be. You had to catch some slack for being the young kid on the scene.
Actually, it was people were very welcoming toward me and acknowledged my gift and acknowledged because I was so accurate in my insights and in my predictions. And the thing that I did catch heat for and that I catch heat for to this day was I would point out the fallacies or the inconsistencies or the cons or the phonies or the frauds or the things that just didn't work. And I've always been someone that disturbed the status quo because the status quo, as we all know, leads nowhere. It leads to the good old boy network, and that's all you got, and that's all it is. Yep. And there's too much of that in the paranormal today. And that's something I've always gone against. I've always fought against.
You know, I thought it would have been fun, though, when you said, I think it's because I'm so accurate. And then like the camera slipped down and you have a gun on one side and a gun on the other hip. You know what I mean? I don't know why they treat me so nicely. And then it slides on. There's two guns. I have no idea.
Actually, I'm a very good shot. I carry a 9mm all the time, and I'm a bullseye shooter, so I'm a very good shot.
Joe, you got anything you want to say or ask?
Yeah. So, just really quick, has there ever been any kind of instance in your years as a medium that where you've kind of felt overwhelmed or almost that you wanted to be rid of this gift, where it was a little bit too much for you?
No, never. And I've never been frightened of any paranormal experience after that initial one when I was 5. And I grew up this way with so many experiences, just, virtually one day after another, that it was all I ever knew. That's the only way I knew to live, the only way I knew to be. So that to me, that was comfortable. And it was really funny because I was about probably 16 or 17 before it dawned on me that not everybody was that way. I kind of figured everybody was in contact with the other side and had all these experiences and had this knowledge and so on and so forth. And then it was kind of like, oh, wait a minute. People are, this is rare. This is not, your run of the mill, ordinary, everyday thing. This is unique. This is different.
I'm hoping, John, in a weird way, you found that out in some social awkward position, like when you walked up on somebody and you're like, "Hey, how are you?" And then they're like, "Well, how are you? What are you up to?" And then you just started talking about what you're up to, and they were like, "Holy jeez, I gotta get a drink over there."
I've done that to a few people in my time, yeah. And I used to, when I was younger, I used to love to go in bars and go up to people that didn't know me from Adam and start telling them things about themselves and what they were doing and what they were into. And they were like, "I'm sorry, do I know you? Have we met?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, don't you remember we met at Susie's party or whatever?" And they're like, "Whatever." But yeah, I used to get a kick out of doing that.
That only works. No offense. That only works in the southern states. I think if that was tried, like in like Providence, New York, Boston, like, buddy, I'll be honest. Like, somebody rolled up on you and they're like, "Hey, buddy, this, that, the other." You'd be like, "Oh, who are you talking to?"
Yeah, right. Who the hell are you? Yeah.
Actually,
you know.
Actually, my wife was born in Yonkers, raised in the Bronx. I moved up to New York to be with her about 6.5 years,
Nice.
and I did that in New York as well. And believe it or not, it played well.
You know what it is?
I remember there was this old school New York bar in the Bronx.
Italian. You mean Italian, right?
Well, it's Irish. I think he was mostly Irish, but
nice.
old Bronx bar, and I love going in that place. And there was a guy in there one night, a guy from England that had come to America, and we were sitting there talking at this old bar in the Bronx. I mean, like way back in its heyday, the New York Rangers used to come in there, and some of the big boxing greats used to come in there. So real authentic New York.
I'm a huge boxing fan. Yes.
Yeah, and so I'm talking to this guy from England, and he asked me what I did, and I said, "Well, I'm a psychic." And so he's like, "Really?" He said, "Well, tell me something." I was like, "Okay." So I started telling him stuff, and he sat there and looked at me kind of weird and looked at me kind of weird. And he went, hang on a minute. I said, "What?" He said, just sit there and be quiet a minute. He gets out his cell phone. He calls his mother in England. And he goes, "Hey, Mom," he said, "you remember the story in the Bible where the lady comes up to Jesus, the lady at the well, Jesus tells her everything about her life?" He said, "I just met this guy that did that. He just told me everything about my life, and he don't know me from Adam." And he called his mother in England to tell her that. So that was one of the experiences I had in New York. One of the things I did in New York.
Did you try to stop him from calling?
No.
Great time with it. They're like,
it was awesome because he was just astonished. He was just amazed, and he wanted to share that with his mother. He thought it was the greatest thing in the world. And he was like, "I got to share this with somebody." So it was a really awesome experience.
So then, Joey, the comparison is Larry Bird.
Yeah. Yep.
Because Larry Bird's the one that actually told the one rookie, "Is your mom in the crowd?" before he dropped 30 on him, and then told Sean Kemp that, "Oh, you broke all my records in Indiana," and then wouldn't shake his hand and walked away from him, and then dropped 40 on Sean Kemp that very first night. It's a Larry Bird move, right? That's what that is right there. So, all right.
There you go.
Buddy, let's move over to the fact of now being a medium moving forward. Does it bother you that people must have to hang on everything you say? Like, in other words, I would think that someone that's a medium, everybody's always trying to be like, not everybody, but there's that percentage that are trying to be like, "Oh, well, out of the 9 things he said correct, there was that one thing he said, I don't think it was quite correct." And they hop on that. Like, how do you deal with that one?
Well, I tell people up front, I said, "Look, no psychic on the planet's 100% accurate all the time, ever."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, over the years, my clients have rated me 80 to 90% accurate over the 50 years that I've done this. And I said, let's take the high end and say that I'm 90% accurate. That's 9 out of 10. And I'm going to miss 1 out of that 10. And that 1 can be huge and it can fall through the cracks. So I explain that to people. And then there are people that are like, like you say, they nitpick and they hang on the small thread. I remember this one woman I had, she was a repeat client, a new repeat client, but she became a repeat client. And I told her, I said, you're gonna, she was asking me about romance. And I said, "You're going to have a really good opportunity around November, somewhere around in there." So she had scheduled a follow-up reading. And so I said, did you connect with the person in November? She said, no. And I said, really? I said, I have a really strong feeling around November. She said, well, in December I did. I said, around November is October, November, December. I said, you can't give me that one. I said, around November. So, you know, you get the people that want to nitpick like that. And
that's not even a mistake. Like,
yeah,
that's just
not even a mistake. And one of the funniest things was people mishear things or hear what they want to hear. I had this this woman decades ago that I read for, and she said, I want to bring my daughter to you for a reading. And I don't normally allow anybody I don't allow couples for a reading, not even if they're married. And I only do one person at a time. But I said, okay, all right, come with your daughter. And it was a good thing that she came, because I'm sitting there telling her daughter about this guy that she's involved with. And one of the things I said was, I said, this guy is not a suit and tie guy. He would never be in an office. He has to do something where he's outside, like out in the field, so to speak, freedom, movement, that type of thing. And the daughter looks at me and goes, no, you're totally wrong. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, he would never wear a suit and tie. This guy could never be stuck in an office. He has to be outside where he has freedom to move and where he has motion and her mother was sitting there like bug-eyed like this. And she looked at her and she goes, that's what he just said. She looked at me and goes, oh, you did?
So in other words, she wasn't listening at all. She was just what she wanted to think. Waited for you to stop and then just blurted something.
Exactly. And then there's people that, like, I remember this one moment I read for.
I almost wanted to say, and it was a woman, shocker. But then, you know, then I was sounding like a male chauvinist. Yeah. I mean, I don't mean that joke.
And this was the last episode we ever had.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Right. Oh, by the way, that's the one?
That's the one that crosses the line, yeah. Jesus. But I remember this one woman, and I was reading for her, and the other side told me about, I said, I'm seeing your father. And I said, he's still alive. And I said, this is the description. She goes, yeah, that's my dad. And I said, there's something about a trust fund issue. There's a money issue. And I think it's a trust fund issue with you guys. And she goes, nope. And I said, no. She goes, nope. I said, okay. And she said, well, let's move on the reading. I said, let's. I said, okay. So I tried to move on, and the other side wouldn't let me move on. They stuck me with that. And I said, look, I said, I'm getting an image of your father. I'm getting an image with you and him with a big disagreement of money. I think it's a trust fund issue. The other side will not let me move on till we address this. You're telling me no repeatedly, and the other side is telling me yes repeatedly, and I cannot move on. And she said, okay, yes, that is my father. Yes, we're having money disagreements, and yes, it's over my trust fund. But I don't want to talk about that. Let's move on to something else. So there's a lot of times when you'll be 100% accurate in a venue with someone, and that's not what they want to hear. It's not what they want to discuss. It's not what they want to acknowledge. And so my thing has always been, I listen to the other side. I give you what they're going to tell me. Doesn't matter if you want to hear it or not. We're going to go there because that's what they're leading me to. So yeah, there's a lot of funny instances like that.
If you're that deep into something, like a trust fund, and then you go to a psychic medium, do either of you guys think it's not going to be brought up? Like, if you have something that serious going on in your life, do either of you guys think, Buddy, Joe, you guys think it's not going to be brought up? Like, by the way, he's not going to bring up that big, gigantic thing that's happening in your life.
Right.
Like, why do they do it? Why do they do
it? It's amazing. People have these basic things they want to come to you with. And I always tell my clients, I said, when I schedule them, I said, look, before the reading, you have to understand one thing. I said, I'm going to give you the opportunity to have a list of questions, and I'm going to answer those questions for you. But I'm also going to tell you what the other side has for you. And you have to understand that the other side, number one, sees way further down the road than we do. And number two, has priorities that are not ours. So in other words, you may come to me and your hot button is
the numbers.
My boyfriend coming back to me, and the other side's hot button is get your butt back in college and finish this degree. You know, So you have to understand that, and I always tell clients that it's like, look, it's not going to be this cakewalk where you get to come in or you're going to win the lottery, you're going to meet this guy 6 foot, dark haired, and sail off. It ain't going to be none of that, because that's not real life anyways. So I always prepare people and tell them, so look, you're going to get the truth, and you may not like the truth, but you're going to get the truth, and you're going to get something that's going to be something positive you can work with, you can move forward in positive ways with your life. And you can make your life better if you use that, if you accept that.
You ever get nothing?
No.
Really?
I've never met anybody I couldn't read for. Never.
Oh.
So is that like an in-person, like you have to be in person with them?
No. I've read for clients in 40 different countries, sitting on the telephone with them, and they tell me it's like I'm sitting across the table from them. And that's because a true psychic gift doesn't have a restriction of time, space, or distance. We like to say, the force, we're all connected, everything's one, but it blows our minds to actually believe that and understand that. But that's the way that it really is. If you're tuned in to the other side, to the psychic realm, we are all connected instantaneously. It's just like you can send a text to somebody in Norway. Well, I can read somebody in Norway. And it's instantaneous. And you have to understand that it really all is interconnected that way.
It takes out the whole ability to read somebody, the whole ability to kind of predict where someone's going in a conversation. Because there's people that when you're person to person with them, they can just read you and have a whole, by the way, Roxy completely agrees with you. What was I just saying before she interrupted me again? No.
About being in person with someone.
Yeah, like in other words, when you're in person with somebody, there's all that other stuff that I think gets played on when you see some of these readings that's not paranormal. So like when I think juice it up, it's their ability to read people. They've seen this before. They've heard that before. So they put things together like a dance. They're dancing that person to a point. And that's the ones where I feel like when they walk across a crowd, they maybe it looks like The Price is Right, and they're just walking around it, and they'll be like, I feel a bob.
Mm-hmm.
I have the hardest time with that one because if you're walking around, shouldn't you be hearing everything? What do you do? How do you handle something like that, like a group of people?
Well, it's like
a bunch of disappointed people, right?
Well,
everybody.
The thing is, the first thing you realize is you're not God.
Yeah.
You can't solve all the world's problems.
No.
And if I'm in a crowd of 100 people and the other side comes to me and says, see this guy over here, go talk to him, tell him such and such and such and such, I've discharged my responsibility. That's all I can do. And clients are always asking me, they say, and it's really funny. They'll say, okay, they'll ask me a question. I'll tell them something. They'll say, is that you or is that the other side? And I say, it's never me. It's not ever me, because I'm only going to give you what the other side tells me to give you. And that's all I can do. I'm going to obey what they tell me. I'm going to give it to you exactly like they tell me. And that's what it's going to be. It's like, you don't get my opinion. You don't get my this, you don't get my that. And so in a crowd of people, if there's 100 people that have need of a reading, but the other side sends me to one person, that's all I can do. And I'm not God and I can't save the world. And if the other side charges me up and says, read everybody here, okay, great. Let's go for it. And there have been group settings, in the past where I've been invited to group settings to do that. And I've done that. But I always, Spirit has to lead the gig. It's not me. It's not my decision. Spirit has to lead that.
I just think it's hard. It must be hard to explain that to people. Because I think they just see it as like everything's going to be peaches and cream,
right?
And it ends up being something completely different. Like it's not.
Might get strawberries and cream, but
not for my generation. Well, strawberries and cream if we're talking Rick James.
Wimbledon,
peaches and cream. Back.
Wimbledon, peaches and cream, strawberries and cream. But yeah, peaches and cream for my generation. Yeah.
There you go. See, Joe. So, anyways. You just threw me off again. What was I saying?
Oh yeah, I took the train right off the track.
What was I saying?
About people not thinking, people thinking everything's going to be peaches and cream, and it's
hey, see, Joe? So, you must earn respect by telling people bluntly and honestly, right? Like you might get those couple of people that are like, little peed, but like you're still gonna give it to them exactly how it is, because therefore, if you're doing that, eventually, just people respect what you're saying, and they don't have as much complaints, right?
Two examples of that.
All right.
One was I had a client that had another friend that were both ladies, and she had a friend that was, and they would call me, and they told me one time, they said, John, when we have to know the absolute truth, no matter how it hurts, no matter how it hurts our feelings, no matter how we feel about it, but we need to know the truth about our lives in a situation, what to do, you're the guy we call. So that was great. Yeah. But then as a flip side to that, they had a friend of theirs, and they told her about me and said, call John. And they did. And I told this woman, I said, you're having a lot of problems in your marriage, aren't you? And she said, well, yeah. And I said, well, it's over. And she was like, well, are you sure? And I said, yeah, this is done. And I said, he's going to move on. And I said, as a matter of fact, there's going to be a divorce. And I said, you should probably just take this in stride, prepare for it, maybe even initiate it. And we went through the reading, and she asked me several other things, and I told her several other things. And periodically we circled back to the marriage, and I told her, and she said, are you sure? And I said, I'm sure. This is done. Move on. And she did not seem upset or angry with me or astonished that I told her that. She thanked me for the reading. We got done. A little while later on down the road,
the husband came over.
Her friends called me that had sent her to me, the two ladies that said, when we need the truth, we call John. And they said, John, we got to talk to you about so-and-so's reading. And I said, I can't do that. All my readings are confidential. And they go, no. We're not asking you for things. We're going to tell you things. And I was like, okay, well, what's going on? What do you mean? And she said, after she got through with the reading, she told us what you said and about the marriage, and she was absolutely livid. And I said, are you kidding me? And they said, no, she was just livid. I said, well, she was nothing but cordial with me on the phone. And when I told her what I saw, she said, are you sure? And I said, yes. And she said, well, okay. And she said, oh, no. She said she was just absolutely just, this guy can't be right. This can't be wrong. This, no. And she said, John, we're not making a melodramatic example. We're not creating a scenario. We're not exaggerating. We counted. And she went to 12, and I'm probably conservative there. I seem to remember it was more. But she said, John, we counted. And she went to 12 other psychics after you. And every single one of them told her you were wrong. The marriage would be saved. He really loved you. He's coming back. Everything's going to be okay. You're going to be forever together. And he filed for divorce this week.
She could have went to Spencer's Gifts and got Magic 8 balls, and then just shook that sucker up and used.
There you go. Saved a little money. Saved a little money. Yeah. So, and I always tell people, I say, look, when I get something that I tell you, take it to the bank. I have these experiences in my life where the other side gives me this for people, and it's 100% dead on, and you can count on it.
But John, here's the question. Are you married?
Yes.
All right. Then do you not know that when a woman ends a sentence with okay, that nothing is okay?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right. So when you said that to her, you said, she said back, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Did you not know when she said that she was like shutting you off, dude, that she had shut down emotions towards you and it was going to be cordial so she got away from you?
Not my problem. I discharged what the other side told me to do, and there you go.
Yeah, but you should have picked up on the okay. Like I learned the hard way on that one.
At that stage of the game, what can you do? Do you only read when you are led by spirit, or can you read anyone at any time?
She keeps asking me to read.
I can read anyone at any time. Yeah. So,
what kind of vibe do you get from Janita? We call it Jai.
There's a lot of interesting things there. There's not. I'm not sure. There's things I would want to go into on the air right now.
Okay then.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah. All right. I get that. Moving to so you can pick up people's vibes. That's another thing. All right. So when you can kind of that must make daily life somewhat easier, right? Like you must be able to get rid of bullshit faster than most.
Well, yeah, but then it also has a tendency to distance people from you. One of the problems in my life has been the fact that I couldn't tell if somebody was bullshitting me or not, and I'd call them on bullshit, and that's hard on relationships. It's hard on friendships. And then, like I said, I've had way over 1,000 physical paranormal manifestations in my life. And you meet people and what do you do? I'm a psychic. Oh, I believe. Oh, and I say, no, listen, stuff happens around me on a real physical. Oh, yeah. And then when it does, the people are like, oh, Christ, this is too much for me. I'm out of here. It scares them to death and they're gone. I remember I had a friend, my best friend growing up when I was young, and he was over at my house. We were fixing to go out and cruise around, and I had a portable radio there, and I walked in front of the radio, and it went off the air, and I moved, and it came back on the air, and I walked in front of it again. I was getting a piece of clothing or whatever, and it went off the air, and he goes, "What did you do?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he says, "What did you do?" I said, "Well, just walking from the radio and went off the air." I said, "Doesn't that happen with you?" And he was like, "No." And I said, "Well, here, you walking from the radio." He walking from the radio. It kept playing. He moved, and I stood in front of the radio and went off the air. He's like, "Okay, we got to go. We got to get out of here." So decades later, I'm staying with this buddy of mine before I moved up to New York. And this friend of ours came over. And in the bedroom I was at, again, I had a radio plugged in, was listening to the radio. And this guy, he would just absolutely freak out about stuff. He'd believe, but he would freak out. And I said, "You want to see something neat?" And he goes, "Yeah, okay." And I said, "Watch this." And the guy had, that I was staying with, that owned the house, he had this real thick shade carpeting in this room, right? And I said, "Watch this. I'm going to go stand in front of this radio." And I went and stood in front of the radio, and the radio went off the air. Totally went silent. And I said, "Now, I'm going to move. The radio's going to come back on." And it did. And I said, "Go put your feet where my feet were in the shade carpet. Look where my fingerprints were. You go stand there." And he went and stood there, and the radio kept playing. I said, "Now move." And I went back, stood in front of the radio, and it went off the air. And he ran out of the house. I mean, literally ran out of the house. So it was like, so it can be problematic. I mean, and people, like I said, there's people that think, "Oh yeah, I want to experience this," and then when they do, it's like, "Oh no, I don't want to experience this." So it can be a little dicey.
Yeah, here's a question, right? So, I'm pretty good at handicapping football.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of seeing into the future. I kind of I can break down the game like I predicted the Super Bowl was going to end. Actually, my prediction was 34-31. The Chiefs would kick field goal to win.
There you go.
I had a bunch that I landed, but my point is this: when you do that, everyone keeps waiting for that clunker, and I start to tense up. Now I know you're calm, but what I'm saying is when you're picking games, you start to when I lose, when I start to overanalyze.
Oh sure.
I've been on a streak. Like the USFL last year, I was 19-2. You know that next week I did bad because I was like, how am I going to keep this up? So I overanalyze games. So have you ever had a clunker like that, or are you afraid of a clunker?
No, not at all, because what the other side gives me is what the other person needs. And it's my responsibility to deliver that to that person. And then to realize, again, I'm not God. I'm going to fail. I'm not 100% accurate. There's things that are going to fall through the crack. And knowing that, and then at the same time doing the absolute best that I can for every person in every scenario, that takes that pressure off.
But Joe, that's a hard gig, no? Like being like that. Right?
It is and it isn't. I mean, I've grew up that way. I've done it so long. I have so much experience with it now. And the other side will basically tell me how to approach things, how to handle things for people. It's like if people are always asking me, "Do you know if somebody's going to die?" And I'll say, "Yes." And the other side will tell me sometimes, And they know what a person can accept. And so they'll tell me, tell this person that their dad is going to die in a couple of weeks and they need to go be with them. And if they tell me to tell it to them that way, they know that the other person will accept it that way and go, I think you're right. We've been seeing it. I better go see my dad. Other times they'll tell me, hey, have you seen your dad lately? No, you better go spend some time with him. Take a vacation, go spend a few weeks. And that's if they get the hint, oh, well, maybe there's something wrong with my dad. He's going to cross over. I better go spend some time with him. So depending upon how the person can take it, the other side knows that, and they will convey through me the way that the other side, the way the person can accept that from the other side.
That's incredible information to gain. If you could gain that information, right, buddy, like about a family member, and you told to go see that family member, like you now were given the chance to enjoy every day, like more, like you're going to put more effort into it. That's a huge thing.
It is a huge thing. It's a beautiful thing, and it's a wonderful thing. And what I tell clients is, what the other side gives me for you is when Spirit wants me to tell someone something, Spirit will bug me until I do it. Oh, God, yeah, all the time. And they bug me until I do something I'm supposed to do. But the great thing about readings is that I tell my clients, I say, look, even if I see something negative coming, I'm going to tell you how to avoid it or at least how to minimize it. And if I see something positive coming, it don't mean you're automatically going to connect with it. I'm going to give you the tools to exercise to connect with that, to make things better in your life and to connect with it in a positive way. So it's a real blessing to be able to do this and to do what I do. And, the psychic realm is filled with con artists and phonies and frauds and people that see a demon behind every bush and everything's negative and everything's scary and everything's this and everything's that. And it's not that way. Okay. And this is one thing that I've tried to do my entire life. And the books that I've written, I had one of the people that left me the 5-star review on Amazon said, thank you for writing this book and explaining that we don't have to be afraid of the spirit realm and that we can connect with this realm, that it can help us, so on and so forth. So that's what I try and do to people. Look, all these things you see on TV, the paranormal investigators, so-called, that's not reality. That's not how the spiritual realm, the paranormal realm, the psychic realm actually works. And I have it on authority from some of the on-air talent that have been on some of these big shows. And I have it on authority from some of the production crew that have been behind the scenes on these shows, that a lot of this stuff is faked, phony, set up, contrived, and so on and so forth. And so it's my big deal to try and get people to understand. It amazes me. I'll be on podcast interviews and in the chat, I'll be looking over there and people are literally equating the paranormal and psychic experiences to The Exorcist and to this and to that. And they're literally thinking that these horror movies are an accurate portrayal of the paranormal realm. And it just blows my mind. So that's another thing that I have to work against and that I have to come out against, try to educate people about and say, look, the Ouija boards. Oh, Ouija boards. I've used a Ouija board since I was 15. I'm 69 now. Never a negative experience. I haven't opened up a portal to hell or anything like that. And, what people don't understand, people talk about Ouija boards. They never say, oh, don't use tarot cards. Oh, don't use a pendulum. Oh, don't use a crystal ball. Oh, don't use divining rods. But, all those are okay. But the Ouija board, you're using the exact same energy in the exact same way, no matter what paranormal tool you use to connect with the other side. It's the same friggin' energy.
Yeah, but the Ouija board was also on the shelf right next to Twister and Operation.
There you go.
So the Ouija board was like a game. You know what I mean? Like, I thought it was a game as a kid.
It was marketed as a game, yeah, and it still is marketed as a game. But it's a serious paranormal tool that goes back lots of long years. The Native Americans had a talking board that they used. In ancient history, there were devices that were very similar to talking boards going back hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years. So this is something that's been around for a long time. And I always get tickled a bit, there's always something that's going to give you an attachment or open a portal or do this or do that. I laugh when I hear this because right now, where all of us are sitting, where all the people are listening to us, everybody in this world, this invisible realm full of spirit guides, guardian angels, your deceased loved ones, and entities that we don't even really know how to accurately describe, all of these intelligences, they're there right now with you in the room. They're there all around you right now. It's just like we're sitting here having this conversation. We're on a certain frequency that's enabled us to do this. Now, all around each one of us in the air right now, there's jazz music, there's country music, there's talk radio, there's other podcasts, there's other interviews, there's metal music, there's rock music, there's all these other things. But guess what? We don't hear them, but they're there. The radio waves are there right now, coming through the air right by you. If you get a radio, you turn it on, you turn it to the right frequency, you're going to get that.
Hell, there's data floating around in the air around us right now as well. I mean, Wi-Fi is the same way.
And it's the same thing with the paranormal, same thing with the psychic thing. All that energy, all those entities, all those intelligences, all those beings, all those people are all around us right now.
So, John,
we're just not tuned into them.
Let me ask you a hypothetical. Say I had a white noise machine that did not have a radio receiver.
Right.
Would I risk the chance of picking up all this other stuff that's in the air?
Very good, because apparently these communications are able to use a noise frequency for communication, and we don't understand that. I was on a podcast. One of the hosts was a professional musician, and we were talking about EVP, and we were talking about you don't hear it with your ears, you hear it in the playback, and you hear it through noise, some type of noise. And he said, John, he said, as a musician, he said, I can take any sound, any voice, any piece of music, anything, and do anything I want to with it. I can manipulate it, I can control it, I can dissect it, everything else. He said, with EVP, I can put them in all the software that I use. I can hear them, I can analyze them, but I cannot find the frequency that they're using to communicate in that noise. I can't discover that frequency. And he and I agreed, and this is something I've said for a long time, when we discover the frequency that these voices are using to communicate, that's when we're going to be real close to having real-time two-way communication with the other side. And that's...
Buddy?
Yeah.
What do you think of that? What you just said?
It's an interesting thought. Yeah, I don't know. I do think they're all around us all the time, and
because we talked about
tap into that at any particular time. Maybe I don't know.
Well, we talked to what was Tony's last name?
Rathman. Tony Rathman.
He was trying to talk to Bocce. He was trying to get to a certain frequency where a person named Bocce, I guess, would get to, and he was picking up different voices on this not frequency. I guess it was a frequency. It didn't have a radio receiver. It was just a white noise generator. So therefore, it was no clicking of channels. And the conversation was whether or not what he was getting was a direct connection from this person who worked on this project, or was there a possibility that by creating a white noise type net, let's just say, that it could pick up other stuff floating through the air, like you just said about all the different airwaves and radio waves and all that stuff.
Well, the answer to that is, when you do EVP or you do these white noise experiments or other experiments, you get direct responses, intelligent direct responses to specific questions. So it's not random radio commercials or announcements or songs coming in. It's an intelligent response to a question you've asked. And a lot of times when people are doing EVP communication, white noise communication, ghost boxes, other types of things, they will have people speak their name. The spirits will reference things that are going on around them or that they've done or that they've seen. So this is a direct, intelligent communication through these things. Now, do you pick up extraneous signals? Of course you do. I was using a ghost box one time, and you can hear as it scans through, you can hear the DJ say her name and start to talk about some show. That fades out, it goes to static, and then it goes quiet. and then there's like 3 bursts of static. And I had this premonition that someone was there. And I said, I know you're here. I said, can you tell me your name? And when I said that, then when that fade out came, there were 3 bursts of static and it got quiet. And this voice whispered very loudly, Joy. And then it went quiet. So there are these specific instances where you get these communications that even among the radio noise all of a sudden paranormally is blanked out and the spirit communication comes through in direct response to something that you've asked.
So then where do you stand on equipment? Is it better equipment makes better experience, or is it just really whatever the conduit is?
Whatever the conduit is, and I don't have to use equipment because I get, real time 2-way communication with these spirits on the other side through my psychic gifts. And for me, equipment was a regression. And then I shot a TV pilot for the History Channel, and I became friends with my producer, and we stayed friends, and we were trying to do other things in TV. And one of the things he said one time, he said, John, he said, work with EVP some, and let's get some of that to give us an example to people. And I said, why would I do that? That's a regression for me because I hold real-time, verifiable 2-way communications with these entities on the other side in my head that I can say, this spirit told me that, we can verify it. They said this, we can verify it, da-da-da-da-da. I said, why would I do that? And he said, because if we get a show and somebody's watching the show, they don't hear what you're hearing. It's a one-sided conversation. But if there's EVP and you go, hi, I'm John, is anybody here? It's Bill. They hear that and they go, oh, holy cow, it's something they can hang their hat on.
So it's basically like you're already the tool.
Yeah, I'm the tool.
Let me rephrase that.
I understand what you mean. And,
you're already the wait, let me rephrase
I'm the conduit, yeah. And I always tell people, I say, when I go ghost hunting, I take the most sensitive, the most sophisticated, the most advanced piece of equipment there is. That's me.
Yep. That's Buddy in our case. Like if we had to pick who's the most expensive piece of equipment, Joe, I think you'd agree, right? It's Buddy. Right?
If the question or the topic was who would most likely break or lose the most expensive piece of
whoa.
Sing pow. Nice inside joke, Joe. Attaboy.
Like a DVR player the group just buys it. And hey, Joe just leaves it somewhere.
2 words. Mel meter.
Yeah.
Mel meter.
Let me give you a couple more words.
I didn't mind, Joe, so that's okay.
Yesterday was my first trip to Block Island. In my entire life living here in Rhode Island. So we went to go meet the guys that run the and girls that run the ladies, whatever you want to say, that run the Block Island ghost tours. Great people. I went with Buddy. It was just me and him, and because we were going there. And then I woke up this morning and I heard him take a leak, and then I heard him take a second leak. This is between 5 and 6 o'clock. So that's probably every half hour by my math. And then I heard the door creak, and this kid could never be like a cat burglar. Because I knew he was leaving. He's jingling keys. He's fucking making noises. Walks right out the door. And I'm thinking, where did Buddy go? Where did he go? So I get up. I'm sitting up. I don't know if Rick comes down. I'm talking to him. I don't know where he is, right? He came back, 8, 8:30, 9 o'clock, whatever. And he says to me, I might go have lunch with a friend. I'm like, you might go have lunch with a friend? Dude, we got to get on the thing for 1 o'clock. What am I going to do? So he's like, So all of a sudden, 11 o'clock rolls around. He goes, yeah, all right, I'm leaving for lunch. And I'm like, you didn't say you were leaving for lunch. He goes, yeah, I did. I told you I might be. I'm like, that's what a little kid says to their dad. I might be. If you were going, just say I'm leaving or I'm not leaving. He broke my heart like Fredo in The Godfather.
I left him for an hour, complete total, and Mike cried a river of tears.
And
floated him all the way down the hill.
I had to walk 2
miles. On his raft, on his river of tears, crying down the hill.
I walked 12 miles all by myself to the boat.
Uphill both ways in the snow.
I didn't have a coat. I saw a homeless person and I gave up my coat. Saw a second homeless person, gave up my shirt.
Underneath in the pavement.
Funny story was that second person wasn't homeless. Still gave him my
Didn't
shirt.
have any shoes.
No shoes, none. And then I get there, and for some reason, Buddy's eating steak on the Block Island Ferry. I've never seen anyone have steak. Even people walking by were going, how does this guy have hot steak? But yet he did. And do you think he offered me even a piece? No.
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 It was a good
He
steak.
is the worst date / fiance / I don't know what you want to call him, trip mate. I even gave him the king size bed. I go by the name King Michael. I should have been on the king size bed. I took the couch. I said, I'll take the couch. Buddy's got it.
Right.
And that's how you do me. All right. Back to this. Now, see, John,
Now that the crying fest is over, back to the show, Mike. Thank you.
My issue with mediums is I make sure that I never ask any personal questions. That's like a big thing with me, man. I'll ask you, like, if you got any feelings about Joey, or you can see anything lingering over Buddy's head. Like, you didn't even want to shoot about that. That's fine. Like, I just kind of want to know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to know because I don't have a positive outlook. So it's like
They followed you, Mike. They came home with you on the ferry.
Nothing followed me home. Although I did get a cattle skull. Hold on a second, John. If you want to just look at Buddy and tell him bad things that maybe.
I do want to mention. You said it earlier about how we always are so crazy about Ouija boards and how everyone's like, oh, don't use Ouija boards. I was that person. Recently, we had an investigation where Buddy's Aunt Dale was using a pendulum, and the pendulum brought in something, I don't want to say negative, but just something that changed the vibe. And there was a lot of noises. We heard a crash in the basement after a very still night. And you saying that makes a lot of sense. I was the person who was always like, don't use Ouija boards. Ouija boards are bad. But in theory, like any type of communication with the other side is opening yourself up to something you may or may not want to experience, regardless of the device or object. So that's a great point.
And you have to understand when you're communicating with the other side, there are our deceased loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
There are guardian angels, I firmly believe, because they've saved my life literally many times. There are our spirit guides, those that are responsible for being with us and helping us to grow and helping us to understand things, so on and so forth. There are nature spirits. There are entities that are not malevolent, but we don't know what they are. We don't know how to classify them. They have an intelligence. They have a focus. They have an aim, but they're not human. They were never human. They're not angelic per se. They're not nature spirits. They're not this. They're not that. They're just, and I think there are several, in my experience, classifications of these entities out there. And if you encounter, like I was watching Swamp People today, and one of the fish that they caught, you pull the jaw open and it has literally these human-looking teeth, not fish teeth. It has a row of human-looking teeth, papu or something, whatever the hell it is. Anyways, so these are these big giant fish. You pull open the jaw, it literally has a row of teeth that look absolutely human. Okay. Wow. Now, that's not demonic. It's not evil. It's not malevolent, but it sure is weird and it sure is different.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going out into the paranormal realm, you go out into the woods and you've encountered mom and dad before in spirit, and you've encountered your spirit guides in spirit and this, that, and the other, and you go out in the woods and you encounter something that gives you either a direct visual experience or in your inner mind, a visual experience of something that maybe is woolly and has a long tail and stands upright and maybe has ears like a wolf. Oh, demonic, evil, satanic. No, it's just something different. It doesn't mean it's evil because it's different. But we're so conditioned to believe in, this one certain thing is okay and this is not, that if we see or feel or experience something that's outside the realm of what we've been taught is safe or okay or normal, then we automatically default to satanic, malevolent, evil, demonic, whatever. And it's not. There are just things out there and all this vast intelligences and powers and entities and things that are just different.
Well, two quick questions.
Go ahead.
One, is there such thing as being a Teflon Don in the paranormal?
Oh, here we go.
Someone that where it just slides off you, like you just walk through it and
No, we all are immersed. We're all swimming in a sea of energies and spirits and beings and things, and we exist in that from day to day. So we're all constantly surrounded by and influenced by and immersed in this. And as many experiences as I've had, one of the things that I've done over the years, and you know, I'm the most skeptical psychic there is, and people say, well, you know, God, the things that you write about in your book are incredible, bizarre, nuts, and I agree, but I have documentation, I have witnesses, I have photographs, I have this, I have that. So when other people are making these claims, I'm like, okay, well, I've had weird stuff. Where's your proof? Where's your, you know, let's see. And as I have progressed, that's been my guidepost for things, is not to say that it couldn't be, but let's see that it can be. And if somebody, like we had a person that said they could set ice cream on fire with the power of their mind. And I was like, well, number one, what do? You sit there and look at ice cream and go, motherfucking ice cream burn, son of a bitch. How do you come up with that? Where does that come from?
What a waste of ice cream. That's
what a waste of ice cream.
Thing you're supposed to do.
So that was number one. Number two is like, okay, I'm going to buy the pint of ice cream. I'll bring it to you. You set it on fire in front of me. We could never get anybody to do that. So, okay, I write that off. So that's the way that I operate. And as I've grown with all of these incredible paranormal experiences I've had, I have begun to discern and to find out that we exist with intelligences that are not human, that are not angelic, that are not this, that are not that, but that nonetheless are very real and can communicate with us concretely. And I'll give you an example of that. Now, when I say that there are intelligences out there that are not human, I got a little dog. Love this little dog. He's smart as a whip. He understood. Hey, should we take him for a ride? Oh my God. Let's go for a ride. So he goes absolutely crazy nuts. So we can't say, do you want to go for a ride? We have to spell, do you want to take Bugsy for an RIDE? It didn't take but 2 or 3 times of that till Bugsy learned to spell. And that RIDE meant the same thing as ride, and he's going ape shit crazy again. There's intelligence.
Oh, I know this.
It's not human intelligence, but it's intelligence.
I know this. I have 2 dogs, and you can't say OUT.
Yep.
You can't say any of that kind of stuff. They know exactly what
that's intelligence. It's not human intelligence, but it's intelligence. So, now, they have hooked up electrodes to plants.
All right.
And they've brought flames close to the plants, and the electrodes go ape shit crazy wild because the plant's like, holy shit, I'm fixing to get burned. That's not human intelligence, but that's intelligence.
Survival.
So we have to understand that there are categories of intelligence out there. Now, here we go really wild. Plants, okay. Trees, okay. Oh, by the way, scientists have said that trees are intelligent. They form communities. They recognize their own species. They send out signals underground through chemicals saying, hey, this is my turf. You stay over here. Oh, you're the same species. I'll help you out. Come over here. Now they say trees have memories of events that have happened in the past. These are scientists saying this, not psychics, not paranormal people. These are scientists saying this. Okay. So
I've read that. And where I got caught up was it memories or is it just evolution? Like, in other words, is the tree recalling what happened and why not to go this way? Or is that just evolution? Like everything learns from its mistakes? Apparently,
the tree's recalling incidences in the past that happened. And there seems to be evidence of that in the growth rings.
But that's what I mean. Like, in other words, it's like the memory, is it remembering to like not go this way? Or is it just that's how science is, that's how nature is? In other words,
apparently the trees are learning and remembering from specific incidents and then learning either do this or don't do that or whatever. And then I love rocks, I love crystals, I love stones. So this place that we moved to, the people that had landscaped it before us had put 9G in rocks everywhere. And ostensibly, you do that, and I'm a gardener. I've got one of these green thumbs. I can put a stick in the ground and get it to grow. So I love to garden. And ostensibly, the reason you do that is the rocks keep the weeds from coming up. Well, it's semi-successful. But anyways, I love rocks. So I'm in this paradise with thousands and thousands and thousands of rocks. So I always go out in the yard, and when I'm looking, I'm an artist and a photographer. So I've got an eye. I look at things. I see the order of things. I see where things are at. So in this one area where I had been before, I looked down, there's a rock there that was not there when I had come before. It's a very unusual rock with very unusual inclusions and markings and protrusions and all these types of things.
Did you bite it?
Oh, no, I didn't bite it. But I said, I got to have this rock. So I bring the rock in, put it in my office, and in a few days, this rock covers with a white bloom. Now, I've never seen any rock do this. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's moss, maybe it's fungus, maybe it's a lichen, maybe it's something I don't know what it is, da-da-da-da-da. So I try and wash it off, doesn't come off. I take a nail file, a emery board, real gently, nope, doesn't come off. So I'm like, okay, this is pretty weird. So then parts of that begins to disappear. And in the parts that remain, there are faces. Not things that look like faces, but there are faces. And I'm like, well, this is pretty interesting. And I think, okay, this rock is communicating with me.
Are you sure it wasn't silly putty?
Hang on. There is a sigil that I developed many years ago that I use. And in this white bloom or whatever it was on this rock, this exact sigil that I developed appeared on this rock. I'm like, holy friggin' cow. This rock is communicating with me specifically, knows the things I have done and developed, and is showing me this on this rock. And then in that little white substance, it all went away, but my name and my first name, John, appeared in that substance on this rock. Wow. Now, there is an intelligence at work there. There is something happening there. So
I can say you're the first person that I've ever heard say they communicated with the rock. Buddy, you know anybody that's ever heard, you ever hear of anybody saying they communicated with a rock? No, for real.
Other than their own pet rock? No, it's never really talked about.
Spencer gifts. They got to Spencer gifts, buddy. Joey, your turn.
Well, we did a wrestling show. We talked a lot about people who were corresponding with the rock.
All right,
Joey. Dwayne Johnson.
What I'm saying is, John, that's like, all right.
That's out there.
As dumb as they say rock.
Yeah.
So, in other words, rock is the dumb. There's no brains at all in a rock. It's just a rock.
Come to find out, rocks are pretty smart. So then you have the whole thing, like with the boulder fields, like with David Paulides, and he talks about the missing people out in the forest that disappear. And a lot of times this occurs around boulder fields, granite, rock. And so you begin to understand there's this whole connection with the other side, with paranormal activity, with rock, so on and so forth. And we begin to understand that we're only scratching the surface of this. And the problem with serious research takes time, takes effort, takes money, and it takes somebody willing to say, okay, well, maybe, yeah, let's check it out.
You know what?
I had a buddy of mine that was at Stanford when they developed SRI, the Stanford Research Institute, where Gellerin, Puthoff, and Targ and all these guys were that did all these documented experiences that prove the paranormal. And this guy interacted with a lot of these people. And the way I became friends with him, I was on one of my appearances on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. And he heard me on there. And
I love our belt. That's what made me do this. Seriously.
And he contacted me through that. And we became friends. And he told me about being there during the SRI period and all of these people. And he said the government threw tons of money at SRI because it worked. Yeah. And interestingly enough, and this goes to my point about we haven't scratched the surface and it takes a lot of time, effort, and energy. It takes a lot of open-mindedness. He said there was an incident there where this guy had done a remote viewing thing, basically for a government contractor. And there was a bench, like in a public area, and some foliage around or whatever. And there was a train track that went in proximity of the bench where the guy was sitting. So the remote viewer got all of that. And the government contractor was like, wow, well, this is a success because this is where we had the guy, the target, sitting. And my buddy looked at it and said, where's the train? And he said, what do you mean? And so as we were discussing this, I'm a professional photographer. All the art stuff I have to do on the side because I've read professionally since age 18. That's the focus, but I love to do art. I paint, I draw, I do photography professionally. I've sold, I've been in galleries, been in shows. And so he found out I was a photographer and he said, oh, you'll understand this. I'll give it to you in a way that you'll get. He said, if you're a photographer and you want to make something disappear, what do you do? And I said, well, you use a slow shutter speed, and slow film, and like that's one of the first assignments you're given when you're learning photography is you're on a busy Manhattan street corner. You want to take a picture of this building, but you don't want any pedestrians in the picture. How do you get rid of them? You put the camera on a tripod, you use a slow shutter speed and a slow film. The building's there sharp as a tack, but the people disappear because the film's too slow to pick up the people walking by. You use a fast shutter speed for to freeze action in sports and this, that, and the other, and so on and so forth. So I got it and I said, oh my God. I said, so, and he said, well, wait. He said, it gets better. He said, so the remote viewer is a film camera with slow speed film and set on a slow shutter speed. And if the train's going by, it's invisible. But if you take a fast film and a fast shutter speed and set it there, the train comes by, you get the train crystal clear. He said, where's the train? And he said, I said, I get exactly what you're saying. You're saying that you could take the remote viewer and train the remote viewer to become the camera set with fast speed film on a fast speed shutter and see more detail in what he's seeing. He can see the train when it comes by. And he said, yeah, you get it. That's it. And so he told the government person this, and he said, look, there could be further training. We could go further in depth here. And with the remote viewing, we could see way much more that's actually there and occurring that we may be missing due to how we're training the remote viewers. And the response from the government person was, doesn't matter, we got what we needed, it's a success. And that was it. So this is a problem. You have a lot of pushback with people in the paranormal community, in the psychic community, especially with the big names. Well, we go to the big paranormal conferences. We sell the same book we've been writing for 100 years. There's no new info. We don't have anything on which to hang our hats, but people love us. We're a personality. We're a success. There's got to be more. We're just barely scratching the surface on this. And we have to be more open-minded. We have to be willing to go more in depth. We have to be willing to, and that's what I've come to the point I'm at now. And I've always been this way, but I'm trying to be more that way now with the time that I have to experiment with this more, to go further in depth with this, say, oh my God, this rock knows my sigil that I developed. What the heck? And so I'm trying to go in depth with this rock and communicate with this and find out, is this an intelligence coming through the rock? Is it an inherent intelligence and ability within this rock? Is it a combination of both? So that's one thing I'm experimenting on. And so there's all these things out there that we can work, we can develop, we can look at, and it's going to take getting out of the mindset of, oh, yay, here's so-and-so at the paranormal conference. Oh, I love him. Isn't he great? I see him on TV all the time. Isn't this wonderful? And you don't get anything. And there's so much out there that we can develop, we can learn, we can go for. And so, yeah.
I'm not saying a word on that other stuff. But
go ahead. I want to hear it. Bring it.
No. I just look. If I wanted to go to a bingo hall and buy Austin Crafts, I would go to like a little kid's Christmas bazaar. But let me say this: we're just scratching the surface of you. We've reached over the hour mark, but we've got to get you back or we got to get you someplace like Block Island with us so we can have some beers and you can tell us these stories because I want to know more. Like
we haven't even scratched the surface of my experiences. God, I've got like tons of them, and some of them will just blow your mind. I've experienced UFOs in the presence of witnesses. I've had deceased pets come back and visit me in the flesh, and actually got to touch and pet one of them. It's just been a phenomenal life. It's just been incredible.
That's Joey. What are you gonna say to wrap it up?
I just want to say thanks for coming on the show. It's always great having these conversations, and like Mike said, man, I mean, it's been this hour 20's kind of flown by, just kind of listening to your viewpoints. And I'll tell you, a lot of times I go into anything involving mediums with a very, very skeptical mind because, like you said, there's a lot of people that, I mean, being able to read someone's very easy if you know how to do it. But I'll tell you what, just listening to you, you seem so confident and so sure. And I have no doubt that everything you're saying is very authentic. And I'd love to get to talk to you again and kind of pick your brain a little bit more, as opposed to just, kind of what we're doing now. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for having this conversation.
And I appreciate being here with you guys, and it's been a good time. We've had a lot of fun. Holler at me when you want to do it again.
And I look forward to you getting to watch the last 5 minutes of the Daytona 500 because it was a hell of a ride.
Oh, me too. I recorded it, so I got to see it.
Buddy.
John, it was good hearing from you. It was like these guys said, it was a nice, it's very quick. It was very, as an investigator, it's very reassuring to hear that like not everything is negative, not everything is evil as portrayed on TV and the movies. Right. People get this like wacky perception of the paranormal that's not even remotely close to being true. And it's nice to hear somebody else think that it's not like evil around every corner and that demons gonna take over my soul. Tune in next week. If your soul's not been taken over or possessed by a devil. Speaking of devils, we're welcoming back demonologist and craft beer enthusiast like myself, Nathaniel Gillis. We'll welcome him to the show at live at 7:05 next Sunday for the last Sunday of February and Mike's Curse month.
Yeah, it is. I am jinxed by the month of February. I fear it tremendously. Everything bad has ever happened in my life has been in the month of February. Like Buddy now breaking my heart adds to the list.
Tears that are rolling down his cheeks.
That was Roxy, our witch, our medium, and she's loving everything that you're saying. She's
thank you.
And your philosophy. Fantastic show. Again, it's one of those shows that I would just talk to you for, and they know this. That's why let's not throw up the X signs like they're injured to get out of this because I'll go on and on and on. But
did anybody hear music playing in the background?
Exactly. Right?
Yeah.
He won this at the Oscars. He's not
seriously. Yeah.
All right.
You look up and it's like, wow, 120. Oh my God.
Yeah. So thanks so much for being on the show.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. We'll definitely do it again. Look forward to it.
So let me wrap it up. For John Russell, for Joey Paranormal, for Buddy breaking your heart, money. It is me, Mike Lever King. Mike Elders was Legit Paranormal, brought to you by legitpodcast.com. Tomorrow night we have the premiere episode. Buddy, of Professor Stone.
Professor Stone's a cool guy.
And the Cellar Dwellers. We get to meet this weekend. You probably had lunch with them. I wasn't there. I don't know.
No, you're upstairs, passed out, and they were singing piano tunes downstairs. It was quite lovely, Michael.
You were in the basement. I was not upstairs. They have an upstairs. You keep doing that. Stop lying.
Was it piano tunes or was it show tunes?
It was piano tunes while Mike cried in the toilet.
Oh, okay. All right. Got you.
His makeup was all smeared. I'm sorry.
I digress.
This story seems like a show in and of its own.
I can't wait to take him on a vacation somewhere and just leave him. I am gonna Houdini him like nobody's business. He's gonna be like Mike, and I'm gone. I'm going to another city. Screw that. Leave me alone.
I'll hear him talking from a fucking
dude. We did the thing, and we did the USS Salem one, and people come up all to the table to ask all these paranormal questions. He's the paranormal guy. I can talk sports if you want. And then they start asking me questions. Where's Buddy, by the way? Left me high and dry at the table for 2 hours straight. Joey, am I wrong in saying that he does that?
I got to say, Buddy, he's not wrong.
Yeah. But, there's a whole other interpretation to I'm going to Houdini him. That could be a whole other thing there.
Hey-o.
Hey-o.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Poison.
And that's where the show got taken off the air.
Guys, no, that wouldn't be it either. Guys, thank you so much. Tune in tomorrow for the premiere of Professor Stone and Solo Dwells. We'll see you again next Sunday. Thank you again, John Russell.